And just for Brenda's reference, we're peanut butter and jelly. So,
It says we're live, so we'll see if we are.
and it's not saying it for me, of course.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you looking
I
on?
am
Oh,
sharing.
I see us.
I'm sharing to the group now.
Okay. Hello, everyone. And thank you for joining us for our May 2024 book club discussion of tourist season with the fabulous Brenda Novak. Um, and I also want to thank you guys for sticking in with us with the recent Facebook group changes and streaming live. We are working through them, and we have some help from our lovely Friends in Fiction family. So we want to thank Kristen Harmel for helping us. But without further ado, let's get to the program. So I'm Lisa Harrison, and I'm here with my co-host, Brenda.
Hello.
And we are so excited. I'm super excited. in a Brenda bubble tonight. So I will let my co host PB, for those that you don't know, she's PB and I'm Jay. I'm going to be referring to her as PB tonight. Would you like to introduce our fabulous guest?
I would be so happy to because I just love this book. Tonight,
Me too.
we have Brenda Novak with us, who's a New York Times and USA Today bestselling author. She's written nearly 70 novels and runs an online book group on Facebook with more than 44,000 members. She and her husband Ted live in Sacramento and are the proud parents of 5 children, 3 girls and 2 boys. When she's not spending time with her family or writing, Brenda is usually raising money for diabetes research. Her youngest son, Thad, has diabetes, and Brenda is determined to help him and others like him. She also enjoys traveling, playing pickleball, hiking, and biking, and rides an amazing 20 miles several times a week. I'm already like bowing to you, Brenda. Welcome to Friends in Fiction Official Book Club.
Thank you. So good to be here. I'm getting my camera on. There we go. Hello.
Yay!
Welcome.
Well, Brenda, this book was so suspenseful. I mean, but with romance and setting and history all mixed in. So I'm really looking forward to discussing it tonight. It was definitely a page turner for me. Thank you for that no sleep one night I got, by the way.
I'll pretend to feel bad, but I won't really feel bad about that.
Brenda
So
stayed up
most of my
way
other
past her bedtime.
I
PB
know.
stayed up way past her bedtime. It was after 1 a.m. and she was like, I'm still reading.
Oh, good. Well, that makes an author feel great. So thank you for saying that.
So we'll be spoiler free until 7:15. And Brenda, after that, spoilers are okay. So this is one place you can talk about what happens in the book in just a few minutes.
Okay.
So we'll give you a spoiler warning, book club members, and put your questions for Brenda Novak in the chat so we can ask some of them tonight. In the meantime, Brenda, please, could you give us a summary of tourist season for anyone who's watching now who may not have read it yet?
Yeah, well, this is a few books back, so I should probably have read the back cover copy before I came on. No, this is about a woman who went to she heads early, clear across the country to stay at her fiance's family's beautiful, expensive summer home, which is a summer mansion. And it's on an island very similar to Nantucket. I went to Nantucket to visit Nancy Thayer and interview her for my own online book group. And that's where I first got to see Nantucket. But so many people were setting books on Nantucket. I loved the island, but I just felt like everybody's done that already. And I wanted to create something similar, but a little different. So I created Mariners, and that's where I set this book. And so Ismay goes there ahead of her fiance, Remy. He's got to do some massive tests for he's becoming a doctor. She's just taken the bar and passed. She's celebrating, already on vacation. but an unseasonable storm hits. Like it's not hurricane season. They don't expect this. It knocks the lights out, knocks the power out completely. And she's, stranded in this faraway place by herself in an unfamiliar home, trying to figure out, okay, I got to get some lights on. So she goes searching for some kind of lighting, candles, what have you, matches. And she finds something very disturbing in her fiance's in his childhood room. So I won't tell you what that is, but that's kind of the premise of the story.
Oh, and we will get into that a little bit later. But I would like to ask you, you mentioned already what inspired you for the setting of this novel. I was wondering about the title and whether it was always the title and about the cover.
Yeah. The cover is always a hotly contested thing between me and my publisher, it seems like, because we are struggling to find the right representation for what I write, I feel like this cover is beautiful. I love this cover, but it's kind of an idyllic type cover. And there's a little more realism and grittiness and conflict and a little more suspense in the novel than maybe you would think when you pick it up. And I've had several reviewers comment on that. And so we always go around and around with my publisher where I'll say, I don't think that represents we call it the editorial, the story. I don't think that accurately represents the editorial. So we are, trying to find just the right look for a Brenda Novak novel. It seems like we are constantly in pursuit of that. But it's partially because I think they publish a lot of other writers who do write books that are exactly how you would picture this cover. So then to have me come along and not be quite in the same mold, I think it's hard for them to figure out, okay, how are we going to depict this? So anyway, that's if you were thinking about the fact that the cover doesn't quite represent what's inside, was that what you were saying?
Well, I mean, in a way, yes, but it's also kind of nice and mysterious because you have what's seeming on the outside is really mirrored in the book as what's, underneath it all. So it's kind of poetic in a way.
Yeah, well, it's seemingly pretty peaceful and tranquil. And then there is, like you say, a lot going on under the surface of this idyllic scene.
Yes. I loved the cover. I loved what was inside the cover. I loved it all.
Oh,
I was pleasantly surprised.
Was it your first Brenda Novak read?
It was my first Brenda Novak read.
I'm glad you picked it up.
I loved it. And I've been a member of your group, which we'll talk about that too. We want to make sure that we get to that because your group is amazing. And we love how you do the be-in buddies.
Yeah, the book
we'll definitely speak to that.
Good. Yeah, no, it's a fun program.
Do you have a question, Brenda? I do have a question from the chat.
Why don't you go ahead with the chat?
Okay. So Edie would like to know, and I don't think this is a spoiler. It's regarding Beau and that he found his love for reading in prisons. So she was wondering, have you ever thought about donating your books to prisons?
Oh, yes, I have actually done a lot of that, and I get a lot of prison mail. It's crazy though. You cannot read your prison mail, or I've tried because I have sympathy for people who are struggling, and maybe not all of them are actually guilty of what they're accused of. I don't know. I'm trying not to make that judgment, but I will get a letter. Like, for instance, I got a letter from a guy that just really pulled at my heartstrings. So I told my daughter, this is before when my older daughter worked for me than the one I have now. And I said, well, send him a form letter just so he gets some mail, just send him a nice reply. Thank you. And so she did this. And then within a week, I got a torrid love letter back. And I was like, oh, yikes. Okay, that's why they tell you as an author not to respond and encourage this. So then I didn't respond. And then about a week and a half or 2 weeks later, I get a hate letter saying how he was going to, find me. And and I'm like,
no.
And so I let him on. It was strange. So anyway, you kind of have to be careful when you're dealing with prisons. It's so easy to find people nowadays with, online resources. So as much as you want to help, Sometimes because it doesn't end well in a lot of instances, you have to be careful.
Absolutely. Wow.
Yeah.
Um, well, we wondered how you came up with your character names,
Oh, Ismay and
especially Bastian and Remy.
well, they're French names, and they were just names that I fell in love with, and I kind of felt like a very wealthy family, would name their children. So it is a constant challenge to find new character names when you've read as many books as or written as many books as I have, because you don't want to repeat. So I'm always looking for ones that are easy to pronounce and easy to sound out, but maybe, I don't have to worry about the fact that I've used them in a previous book.
Oh, nice, nice. They're very interesting. Ismay as well, which I
Yeah.
hope I'm pronouncing it correctly because I read it and not listened to it. But
Yeah. I read that in a book somewhere, and I remember making a note thinking, oh, I love the name Ismay. It's so pretty. So I
yes,
wrote,
it really was. She's a beautiful soul, and we'll get to that too in a minute. But we have a Friends in Fiction book club member who is going to come on and ask you a question live. This is Debbie Stone,
hello, Debbie.
and she will be coming on momentarily. Hey, Debbie.
Hi, let me get my video going. Hang on.
Oh, she's in San Diego. Hi, Debbie. I'm coming to San Diego in the fall when the band books club comes out. I'll be at Warwick, so you'll have
Yeah,
to come.
I'll be right there when you're there for sure.
Yay.
Yay. I had to shut off.
Debbie, what question did you have for Brenda?
So, in coming in midstream as a fan, and book club member and all that, I noticed there's a lot of books that are parts of series and some that are standalones. How do you decide when one is a part of a series and when one is a standalone? And I just heard you actually just live about people commenting on needing an ending book for your series. So I think I have a little bit of an idea, but I'd love for you to answer that for us.
Yeah. Well, sometimes actually okay, let me back up a little. When my first series happened because a book I was writing, I was a brand new writer. I did not know how to do a series, but they were becoming all the rage. So publishers wanted series. And I hadn't figured out how to implement this yet. I was brand new, but I'd written this book. I knew something was wrong with it. I couldn't figure out quite what. I was meeting with my editor who had just read the sample chapters at a conference. And Paula called me into her motel room and she said, you know what's going on, Brenda? Actually, it was the whole thing. I'd finished the whole thing. It wasn't sample chapters. That's how she knew. I had just turned it in. And she said, you've got two plots that are warring with each other. There isn't one that's a subplot. And I realized I loved the secondary character that I brought into the story so much that she had kind of captured my imagination. And I suddenly segued and started writing more of her story. And so I realized, of course, that, she knew, she caught it. This is what's wrong. I got it. But it was the only book I've ever had serious revisions on because I had to lift 70 pages out to make sure I focused more on that heroine and make that heroine stronger. But what it enabled me to do then is see, I had this other fabulous character that I had weaved this plot around. And I thought, oh, now I get to write her story. So it created my first series because that was my first spin-off book. And then I did another one and another one. And that was the Dundee, Idaho series. So at that time, everybody wanted publishers, readers wanted series. And so I wrote the Dundee series, then I wrote the Whiskey Creek series, and I started the Silver Spring series. Well, I had written a couple of standalones along the way. And usually those are when they're harder to do series in suspense books, unless your character's like a detective or something that's taking on a new case. Because let's face it, I mean, how many people have somebody come and try and kill them and then thwart them, and you know what I mean? And then that happens to them again and again, it's not very realistic. So it's harder to write suspense series unless you frame them in a little different way. For instance, I'll give you an example. My Stillwater trilogy is probably the only series that I've written that has an overarching mystery between the three of them. They solve their internal conflict and external conflict in each book, so they're each a satisfying read individually, but it's probably the only ones of my books where I say you really need to read the first one first. Like, it's much more enjoyable to do book one, then book two, book three. And because my books are, some are trilogies, some are series, some are standalones, I have a page on my website that you can actually download that has a list of all my books. It's on the books tab. And you can print it out and check them off as you go if you want, or go to the library or bookstore or whatever and see which one is next, or which ones go together. So it just kind of can keep everybody straight. So a lot of it is dictated kind of by what you're feeling. Like with Whiskey Creek, I did a series about, friends who grew up together, both male and female, and they get together for coffee every Friday. And they're all from this little gold country town and have remained friends into adulthood. And so it was really kind of fun to follow each of them into finding their significant other and their, what they really want out of life. And so I knew that would be, about 10 books. Of course, then there's a few other characters that have come on I could also write. But so sometimes in advance about how long it's going to be, but others, like my Last Stand series, is about 3 women who they started a charity because they're all victims of violent crime, and they're trying to help other women who are falling through the cracks of the criminal justice system. And the way they do this is by spending time on investigators and emotional support and things that the police just don't take time to do. And so it's a charity and they have to do fundraising, and they get involved in case after case after case. So that's an open-ended series. So some are closed-ended because ahead of time, okay, I'm going to run out of material about here. Others are open-ended like that. So I guess it's just kind of to answer your question, just depends on what the publisher wants. If they want a connected book, depends on if you really feel you have a good book that could follow that one. So it's kind of, you work together to figure that out.
That's great. Thank you so
Do
much.
you like series or
Really appreciate it.
standalones?
I'm sorry?
Do you like series or standalones best?
I love them both, but it's good to know. I like, if I've come in the middle of and find an author that I really like, it makes it hard. Like if those series is 28 some odd books, and then I feel like it's too overwhelming to do. So I like that yours, there's a trilogy and there's this, and I can pick and choose. And so that's what's made you such an accessible author for me. And I just love learning more and reading, because I feel like I came in your 67th, 80th book. And I love that I can go back and just really enjoy these. And the Coyote series came out new, and I was like, my God, I really love that series. And so now I want to go back and read some of the others. So it's good to know what they're a little bit about and have a sense of them, and then the standalones as well, because then it's a good mix.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like, as a writer, it's really fun to go back into a series because all of the characters and everything. It's like going into a party where everybody versus having to recreate all of that. But it is, what you mentioned is a real problem, especially for publishers. When they get too deep into a series, then readers don't feel like they have a good entry point, and it can hurt sales. And I even have a lot of readers tell me, oh, well, I won't read your first or second book of your series. I wait till it's all out. And I feel like telling authors cringe when that happens, because it sends the wrong signal to the publisher.
Exactly
the publisher
right.
thinks, oh, people don't like her work, nobody's buying this book, and they may discontinue the series. So it's like, when they tell me that, I'm like, oh, no, you need to at least buy it, even if you're going to wait, just to show the publisher, because we all vote with our dollars, right? It's what we pay for, is what we continue to see, with whether that's Walmart or Nordstrom or whatever. If we go there and shop there, that's what's likely to be around. And same with authors. So so when they tell me that, oh no, I won't read any of it till they all come out, and then I'll go buy them all. No, please don't do that. At least get them out.
It's also good to know, though, that when a book is going to come out, like when you did the Coyote one, this is the first of the series, please buy the series. And you let us know that as readers, especially those new into the reading world and into the series world. And so that we know that it does matter. And I mean, I know this now, but what I'm saying is just so that new readers coming in, we know how important it is to buy as it's being published, is as important, if not more, than after the fact when it's all published.
And that's why pre-orders work too, because they kind of tell a publisher, oh, there's anticipation for this author or this book. And so, because they really only measure by money. That's how publishers measure. They can have a great author who writes beautiful books, but if they don't sell, then that author is gone, right? Because they only measure by money. So it's one of those things. Pre-orders really matter in this new world, because publishing is getting so just fracturing, right? There's just a lot of publishers that are struggling right now because of the loss of the mass market paperback. We could go into all that, but they're focusing only on trade and hardcover now, because that's the only place they can make money. So a lot is changing in the industry.
Right. Yeah. Well, I really love tourist season. It was a lot of fun going down into Coronado and showing everybody Coronado with the book, and it gave it a flavor for me because that is kind of an isolated little town island. So it was really fun to feature that when you did a little contest, and then have that be like my mindset of where it was. Because I've never been to Nantucket before, so it was really fun. It was a really fun read. I really enjoyed it, and just wondering if any one of those characters might pop up in another book connected series. Maybe it will.
Oh,
You know,
I have to start
Seaside Library.
on that.
The Seaside Library is set on Mariners too. I don't know if you've read that one yet. So that one is
Okay.
I figured that little Easter egg out after.
Okay.
Yes.
Good doll. Thank
Well,
you so
Debbie,
much.
thanks so much for joining us tonight, Debbie, with that great
Yes.
question.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you so
thanks,
much for
Debbie.
having me.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
bye.
Good night. Well, I'll see you
Good
back on
night. See you in the chat. Ah, I love that. So I just wanted to, before we go on with our next question, I wanted to go ahead and give the spoiler warning. We're after 7:15. So some of the questions from this point forward may be spoilers. They may not. The answers might have spoilers, but we are free to discuss this fabulous book.
Okay.
So, my next question. Okay. So there were a few shock moments, plenty of shock moments in the book. So my question to the readers in the chat is, what moment surprised you most when you were reading it? And then while they're answering that, Brenda, what about you? What was it for you as you were writing that surprised you the most?
Well,
Oh gosh.
that of course, because I can't know ahead of time. If I'm writing a book and I know the answer, I'm such a transparent person that the reader would know it way too soon. So I have to make sure that I don't know the ending of the book before I go in, or I change it if I think I do know it, because I like being surprised at that moment of who. So the whole time I'm going, okay, is this going to be Remy? Is it going to be his brother? Is it going to be Bo? Is it, and so I didn't even know. Of course, I was fairly certain I didn't want to make it Bo, but I just wanted to know. But the surprise value of that definitely was tempting, right? So yeah, so it was one of those things where I just can't know myself, and so I'm surprised along with the reader, and that's what keeps me engaged when I write.
So literally you were going through and not sure yet how it was going to play out. Oh my gosh. Because as readers, of course, we were doing the same thing. It's like, oh, now I think it's Remy, and now I think it's Bastion, and there's this evidence and that evidence.
Yep. Yep. That's what I was doing too. And then once I figure out at the end who, like, okay, this is the person that I think would make the most sense with the clues that are given, but also still be a good surprise. Then I go back just to make sure I've been honest with the reader, right? And I haven't done anything intentionally misleading that doesn't fit in the puzzle. And so I do go back and read it and maybe nip and tuck here. But it's weird. I kind of feel like your subconscious goes out ahead of your mind and plots and does things for you, because very rarely have I had to go back and do any major rewrite of the plot, which you would think, not knowing the end, you could plot yourself into a corner, and heaven help me, I hope I don't do that in the future now that I've said this. But it does seem to kind of lay things out for you and have a certain path that you're meant to follow, and it just shuts down when you get off that path. That's what writer's block is for me. Is it just shuts down. I can't create anymore, and then I have to retrench a little and figure out where I went wrong. But it's usually not very far from where my mind just turned it off.
Oh my gosh, that's fascinating to me.
That is fascinating, and that's probably why it's so good. Like, that's probably why the twists and the turns and the shocking moments are so authentic, because that's how they were written.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. For me, my OMG moment was finding the bag with the panties in the wall. I was like, whoa, what have we stepped into here? And then also when finding Bo's real driver's license, like, I had no clue. I was not thinking anything about Bo. He was just the perfect book boyfriend and great guy. And I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah. Yeah.
PB, what was an OMG moment for you?
Oh my goodness. I was just gasping when I was reading about when Remy tried to run Ismay and Jack off the road. I was like, are
Oh,
kidding me. Oh my gosh, who would do that even in that situation? And then of course Bastian slipping one of her underwear. That was just creepy on so many whether he did
yeah.
the other thing or not, because at this point you don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't know.
It gives you
Well, our
more reason to
members,
trust him. But these two have been raised so entitled that they don't feel as though anything should be off limits to them.
And they behave that
yeah.
way on the island and off the island and everywhere.
Because
It's
mommy's always
so crazy.
Well, our members are very active in the chat. There's a lot of love for you in the chat.
Oh,
A
that's
lot
nice.
of members love your book club, your book boxes, giveaways, game nights, author guests.
Good.
June says you make your followers feel super loved
They are
and
loved.
you are a favorite.
Thank you.
Now, to the question, Edie says, I hated both brothers and hoped both would get karma.
Yeah, neither one of them were too likable. I'll give you that.
Yeah. And Leah says, I was stunned that the mother, Annabelle, sort of knew which brother was the evil twin. And she phrased it that way so people who, if in case someone hadn't finished, they wouldn't know. It would still be a surprise.
Yeah. Yeah. What the interesting part for me was in the end when she had a reckoning for past behavior but I was also thought that it was encouraging the way she handled it and ultimately.
Yeah. Brenda and I were talking, PB and I were talking about it last night, and I was sharing one of the lines from the book that stuck with me. I don't have children, but I can't imagine as a parent when she was on the phone, or Annabelle was on the phone, and she said, I don't know how I got the kids that I got. And I was just like, I can't imagine that feeling as a parent, knowing that you have a child that's evil, knowing like what can you do, what do you do in that situation. And I just feel like the way that all of that was written, the way she felt, it was so well done.
Oh,
It was
thank
so
you.
well done.
I appreciate that. I
It
think
does
Yeah.
make you wonder about the parents of all these folks that you see on the news who've done these terrible things. And did you have to do research to kind of bring her into focus?
Well, I feel like because I have written suspense, I have a suspense series, my Evelyn Talbot series, that's where a psychiatrist studies psychopaths in a remote facility in Alaska. And it's because she was attacked when she was younger by her boyfriend, whom she thought loved her. So the shock of that, the hurt of that, of feeling like somebody you love and trust could be somebody you do not even know, similar premise kind of to this book. It set her on a path where she was determined to figure out the psychopathic mind. And so she's just burning to finally solve it. Finally solve, why do people do this? Which of course, is very elusive and we're all still researching and trying to figure that out. But because of the research done with that, I am quite familiar with what's been written about psychopaths. And of course, these boys, especially one of them, exhibit some really sociopathic traits, right? And so I feel like I've always wondered on the news when I see sad stories, even Ted Bundy or whatever, or Jeffrey Dahmer, how heartbreaking that would be for the people around him, to think that your loved one could do something that horrific, and yet they would still be part of you. You'd still love them. You would know other parts of them that maybe are lovable, right? Nobody's all bad and all good. So I just thought that this was an interesting exploration of that, of what a mother would do in this situation, and also making the mistake that I feel like a lot of parents make. I feel like I'm probably guilty of this too, where you soften the blow and the consequences for your children on the little things to the point that they begin to think that they can get away with stuff. And then the stakes just get higher. So you do them a disservice by doing that, even though your love for them wants to make you shield them. And then, so you shield. And then it gets to the point, like what happened with this mother, it was beyond anything she could shield anymore. But had she handled it differently, way back when, maybe it would have changed things, or maybe he was just born that way. I mean, it's certainly, we could have a debate on that, because the research definitely tends toward that some of us are just born that way.
Wow.
Yeah.
I do wonder about that too with parents, especially parents who are in small towns or, not metropolitan areas, and they are basically stuck with those actions of their children forever, regardless of what happens to the children, whether they go to prison, whatever.
Right. You mean because everybody knows their business and knows, is that why you say small towns?
Yeah, because everybody knows everybody. And so, to leave it, you have to leave, literally leave.
Yeah.
And so, and the little island, of course, was that way too. Everybody knew everybody's business.
Yes. Well, we're a fabric,
Except for both.
woven together, and what one person does affects other people around them. And especially, like you say, in a small town, it's tough. That's why I love the Banned Books Club. The book coming out in the fall is set in a small town, and I just loved the way all those relationships worked, where what happened, and the heroine goes back and has to face something that happened there that she was trying to escape. But like you say, in a small town, the rest of her friends and family had to live with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we were going to
Well, we're
ask
gonna
you
talk.
about that too
Yeah,
a
we're
little
going to ask you
later.
about that in a few minutes. I'm wondering, this was such a great read. I mean, it seemed to flow seamlessly, but were there any scenes in your book that didn't make it in that you wish had?
No, the way I write doesn't really lend itself to cutting out scenes, because I do it 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So I'm always building my foundation. It's always very solid beneath me, or I can't go on. So if it gets trimmed, it's just parts of one, you know what I mean? As I build, it's because I'm just constantly going over it each time. And so I don't write the whole thing and then go, oh, nip and tuck here. Like a lot of people just do a draft and then they revise, and they may take out certain scenes, or other writers even can say, okay, I wrote the ending, I wrote some of the middle, now I'm going to get there. If I did that, I'd veer way off and miss it completely, and those would be wasted scenes, because to me everything moves with this forward momentum. I can't jump around in the story like that.
Oh, wow. It's also fascinating to me how people achieve their writing so differently.
Yeah.
Some people know the beginning right before they start and they've thoroughly outlined, and then others are, it's the whole pantsers plotters thing.
Yeah.
One of the things I wanted, that's a little off topic to the novel, but we wanted to ask you about, because it's in your bio, is we know you do a lot of work with diabetes research. Could you talk to us about that, and if people want to donate, where they can donate? I know you've raised a lot of money for research.
Yes, I used to do. Well, first of all, my son, Thad, my baby, he was just 5 years old when he was diagnosed with type 1, which is an autoimmune disorder. It's not, a lot of people get them confused and think, oh, I must have fed him wrong or something. But it's an autoimmune disorder that kicks in. It kills the islet cells in your pancreas. And so then you need insulin. And so this was so shocking to me, because I'd heard about my dad had diabetes. A lot of people I know had diabetes, but it was always type 2. And not that that isn't important, but the reason why I point that out is I just wasn't fully aware of the ramifications of how these complications could affect his life at such a young age, especially having that, taken away from him. So it can affect your heart, can affect your nerves, your eye, everything. So as a mother, I was, of course, just heartbroken and defensive and protective and wanted to do something about it. So I started an online auction where I would gather really cool things from authors, like Lunch with Lee Child, Lunch with Diana Gabaldon. We just had, Nora Roberts did a Stay in Her Inn. And so all these wonderful authors. The writing and reading community, as you know, is very generous and wonderful. So readers would come and be able to buy autographed books and ARCs of books that weren't even out yet, and lunch with their favorite author. And we'd have writers be able to come on and buy a read, by an editor at one of the major houses. And not only would they read it, they would read it within 24 hours of receipt and call the person back, which is unheard of. So anyway, we just really had fun, unusual items that people were excited to shop for. And I did that for 10 years, but I was raising 5 kids. I was writing 3 books a year. And this was like a second job, because it took me all year to try and get all the items. And then of course you have to all the fulfillment after it's over, and you have all the promotion. It was just huge. So even though it had a great run, I was exhausted by the time it was done. I thought I'll stop for a couple of years. And I've never been able to get back into it since then, but we have done other things. Like I put together lots of, digital book sets that we would then sell, and all the money would go to diabetes research. We have a necklace on the store at brendanovak.com right now that the proceeds go to diabetes research. It's a silver ribbon representing, the diabetes. And then there's also my Love That cookbook, which all the proceeds go to diabetes. So I'm rising up much, much less now than I once did, but it's still, of course, a cause that's near and dear to my heart, and I want to stay in it for as long as possible.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you. And if people want to donate, where would they go? Just to eat? Would they?
I just finally shut down Brenda Novak for the Cure. I just shut it down. So I'm not officially a charity. I was an actual 501(c)(3). I just shut it down this year. And so if they wanted to give, it would be at JDRF, unless they wanted to buy our necklace or our cookbook. Then of course those proceeds still go to the DRI. But I don't have my charity anymore. So they would
Okay.
diabetes
Great.
facility of their choice.
Well, the Brenda Novak store is amazing. So you can add that to cart along with everything else on there.
Yeah, there's some super fun things in there. We have had authors, a lot of your friends and fiction authors, and we hope to have more. We also have had Kristen Hanna, we've had James Patterson, we've had signed books from Nora Roberts in our boxes. So luckily, because of my auction work, it put me in touch with a lot of authors. And so I've been able to maintain those friendships. And so when I feature them, they're usually pretty amenable to signing copies for our Brenda Novak book boxes. And it's very nice of them.
Awesome. We love the work that you're doing and connecting readers and authors, and that's important to us too. So thank you for that. You mentioned writing 3 books a year, which kind of goes into a question we have from the chat. Meredith would like to know, she's a fan, and she said, you put out so many books every year, which is amazing. How do you find the time?
I don't know. I mean, you should do what you have to do, and I've worked so hard for so long that I think you get used to it. But I am going down to 2 books a year after the end of this year. So that's going to be very nice. It'll allow me to travel a bit more and enjoy my grandkids a little more. So that's going to be a fun thing. But this year's crazy with releases. I mean, I will have 4 this year. And if you backed up till August of last year or September of last year till September this next year, it'd be 6 in one year. Because my publisher stockpiled the Coyote Canyon trilogy to bring them out close together. And then I had the 75th anniversary book that's coming out. So it was just kind of the perfect storm that brought them all out in such a short window. But trying to help support each one with promotion and stuff, it's been a big year.
It has.
Wow.
And we have a couple of members in the chat that mentioned that they saw you on the Airstream and they loved that and want to know if you're going to do that again.
I hope to do it next spring. I won't be doing it for the tour this fall because I'm afraid to go during potentially bad weather. Pulling a trailer is hard under any circumstances, especially an old one because it's, a renovated antique. So I think it'd probably be better for spring. Again, it worked out so well last year when we went for 2 months all over the country. So we're thinking we'll probably do it with my spring release in 2025. And then I'll do a 2-week tour for the Banned Books Club in the second half of September. And so we will just fly for that one. But that is fun.
Oh.
It's a traveling, for those who don't know, it's an Airstream that I retrofitted into a traveling bookstore and coffee shop. And Ted was my barista. And we pulled it all over for, like I said, 2 months. We had 33 stops, probably saw 2,000 readers. It was wonderful.
It's amazing.
That sounds like the perfect trip to me.
It really was nice. If we weren't pushing so hard, we did pack it pretty tightly and we had a lot of distance to cover. So you would get a little nervous, like, are we going to make it, drive faster, So if it wasn't packed so tight, we could have spread it out over 4 months, would have been, because we thought we were going to do all this sightseeing too. We're like, no, we barely made it to each stop.
Oh, no. Oh, that's kind of sad, but I guess good that you're so busy.
It was wonderful.
Well,
We got to see everybody, and we got there and made sure that not one stop had to be canceled, which was just wonderful. And we had all the packages that people had purchased, which were really cute totes featuring the book stream. And luckily it came off without a hitch.
oh, that's awesome. That would just be such a neat trip. I mean, I know it's different when you're in charge, but oh, it would be a great trip. Speaking of busy, and I want to give our readers a chance again here. If you have a question for Brenda, go ahead and put it in the chat because our time is starting to run short about tourist season. But you mentioned how many books you write. How do you have time for reading, and what are you reading right now?
Well, I don't have as much time for reading as I will soon have, but I do try and read because it's important for writing. It just keeps you loose. I don't know how to describe it. Whenever I do get tense or I feel like the writing's not flowing, if I read, it solves the problem. So right now I've been reading banned books because I'm going to do a fun little TikTok series featuring a new banned book every week. And I want to make sure that I've read the whole thing and can, comment on what was good and what was bad or whatever. But so I've been reading those. So I just finished. I had never read Lady Chatterley's Lover, so this was my first time, and I just read that. That was wonderful. I just finished Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye, which was heartbreaking but poetic and beautiful at the same time. And it really makes you, the value of that one, I felt like really makes you turn a harsh eye on yourself. You know what I mean? Like, wow, like your warts suddenly become very clearly in focus. Whereas before you could kind of ignore them and it seems a little blurrier. But when you read that, then you're like, wow, it just makes you take stock of the things you want to change in your own life and to mitigate suffering of others. And I liked that about it, even though it was a very dark, heavy read, too dark for my husband. I had to quit reading it to him, but I finished it and I thought it was a very worthy read, but it was hard because it was so dark in that regard. And then I'm reading, what other one did I just finish? For fun, I'm reading Abby Jimenez new book, which is definitely fun. I'm almost finished with that one. So yeah, I've been having a good
finished
time.
That one.
I just got back from Italy, my daughter's wedding. So we had these long flights, which instead of writing the time off, I got to read.
Oh,
That's
fantastic.
awesome.
Do you like
Yeah,
audiobooks
congratulations.
or prefer
I
them?
love audiobooks. I listen to audiobooks in my car because that's one way I can consume without having to, like, if I'm available, I feel like I should be writing. You know what I mean? If I'm in my house and not doing anything, I don't feel like I can sit there and read a book. So, but if I'm driving or if I'm cleaning, something where I'm already getting something done, then I listen to audiobooks and I really enjoy them. Yeah. As a matter of fact, my son and I fight over my Audible credits. He'll like try and swipe them when he sees them. And then I'm like, you got to them again, or like last time I had like 5. I'm like, oh, we haven't gotten audiobooks in a while. Like we've stocked up, And so I texted him to let him know, hey, we've got some credits. He went and took them all instantly and then sent me a laughing emoji. I'm like, I was trying to share with you. You had to take them all.
Oh, well, I guess as a mom, that's a good problem to have.
Well, he's in dental school and he's reading all these business books. And I figure, if he's educating himself, that's fine.
Okay. I do have a question from the chat. Leslie would like to know if there is a specific case that you based Beau's storyline on.
Specific case? No, not that one. A lot of times there will be like a dateline or something that'll trigger an idea. But for that one, I don't think so. I just kind of really liked that quiet, taciturn carekeeper who almost a gothic type feel. I mean, I don't think the book is gothic, but I got that from my love of gothics. And so I kind of liked that, this strong, silent, and yet he's hiding this, tip of the iceberg hides so much underneath. So I just liked that and wanted to kind of explore that.
And we have several questions. Several members want to know if you are thinking of doing a sequel for tourist season.
I never say never because I love all these characters and would love to revisit them. I will say I haven't written it. It's not in the works right now because the next one, like I said, is the Banned Books Club in mid-September. And then the one after that's coming out next April isn't connected either. I just finished that, turned it in. I'm anxious to see how my editor likes it. I've been waiting for word, so we'll see.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And then the next 2, I think I'm going to set in Italy because I just got back from 3 weeks there, as I mentioned, and I just fell in love with the country, and I thought it would be so fun to set a book here. And a lot of my readers on social media are like, do it, do it. I'm like, I think I
Yeah,
will.
Well,
that's
add
a great
ours to
setting.
the chorus.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sounds good. Yay.
that's a great setting.
Oh, it is,
That's
absolutely. Well, you gave us a little segue into your upcoming book. Can you tell us a little bit more about the band book club coming out in September?
Gosh, let me see if I can even remember the whole thing in a concise
I don't
way.
know how you can keep them
Ramble, but
straight
I
at
know.
40.
well, sometimes my editor will mention a name of somebody and I'll be like, who's that? She goes, your character. You have a better memory than I do for them. But no, the Banned Books Club is about a girl who in high school, the overzealous PTA got involved and started banning books that were on their English reading list. And it made her mad. She wanted to be able to read what she chose to read. And so she started this Banned Books Club, that they would read the Banned Books Club. And she had this one English teacher who championed her in doing this, because he couldn't no longer put it in the regular curriculum. But if people had, notes that their parents signed, they could join this Banned Books Club. But then he betrays her trust, and so something happens there. And so when she leaves, she's not real happy about what happened and really wants to escape that hometown. But then her mother has cancer and her other sister, there was just the two girls, her other sister is taking care of the mother, and she feels like, I can't just leave it all on my sister. I have to go back and help. And so she has to go back and face it. And a lot of the town feels like, she lied about what happens, and happened and was very angry. And so especially the English teacher's son, who ends up living right behind her when she gets back, is very angry because it tore his family apart, what she said happened. And so, of course, there's an explanation as to who told the truth.
Well, that definitely sounds like one to pick up in September
Yeah.
or pre-order.
Yeah.
Yes, pre-order. Pre-order. Well, we have a couple of comments I wanted to share. Everyone is saying yes to Italy. Please do a book in Italy. Love, love, love Italy. But one person says that they would love to have a story about Jack, to know more about Jack. And then someone says that, or Michelle says, poor Ivy needs a man.
She does need a man. So maybe, and those are characters that I love have hanging out there, because it will give me more material in the future that I'll be able to move to.
Yeah, they're great characters in this book. Yeah, it was really great.
Thank you.
So you mentioned your spring book tour. Tell us what are you touring with anything now, or will you start again for Band Book Club?
Yeah, not tell the Banned Books Club I'll leave
Okay.
like the 15th.
So we can start looking for those tour dates
Yes, if you're not on
before long.
Yeah, if you're not on my mailing list, I hope you'll sign up. You can just go to brendanovak.com and click on newsletter on the tabs across the top, and then that'll enable me to communicate with you. Sometimes you guys know Facebook doesn't show, even if you follow somebody on Facebook, Facebook kind of chooses what they show you from that person. So I may announce it and you may never even see that post. So definitely go sign up for my newsletter so that I can get you that information.
And I might jump in here and say your website is really great. We enjoyed perusing it, and sort of in preparation for today. You've got a lot of great content, offering some great book boxes and different
Yeah, we have
wonderful
a fun
literary
contest going right now that if you post where you would like me to go in your hometown as a tourist to see something, if you post with the book on your social media and tag me so that I can see it, it enters you to win a $500 gift card to an airlines so that you can be a tourist in the future. So those of you who haven't entered the contest yet, hope you get busy and enter the contest, because I can't remember when Alexis said that one ends, but I think it should be coming up pretty soon. Might even be by our book group meeting May 30th. We have a book group meeting May 30th. Where we'll be discussing this and Sheila Roberts' new book. So I think that might be the cutoff.
Very cool. You heard it here, guys. And I do get the
That's right.
newsletter. So you guys do want to sign up for Brenda's newsletter. And you want to check out her store too, and you'll become obsessed with all of the things in the book boxes because they're all
I
great.
know. And speaking of your book group, and you have a really large and successful Facebook book club page. How do you manage such a large group? I mean, our Friends in Fiction book club is at Lisa
32,000.
22,000. Okay.
32.
And we're busy.
Yes,
Looking for
yes,
tips here. How do
it's
you manage your book club and that whole side of the creative business, which is like the business side?
well, luckily for me, I have some really great members who help a lot with it. They, Star Roybal, Janet, Roble, or did I say Star's name right? Anyway, Star Walton. I can't remember. I'm drawing a blank, but Star. I know her as Star. She's fabulous and she helps. There's a lot of them. Nicole Duvall. They just all jump in and really help each other. Answer certain questions, direct others to my website. I, of course, comment and post as much as I possibly can. So I try and catch a lot of the questions and stuff too. So I just do my best to be active in there. I love those people. So it makes it easy when I'm procrastinating work to go hang out with them. And we just try and make it as fun as possible. It grew a lot during COVID because people were shut in and a lot of people couldn't see their family. And a lot of our members maybe are getting older or ill. And so we just really wanted to make sure we did bingo and book group meetings and fun things, readings, fun things to keep them occupied because it was a difficult time for everybody to get through. And so I think it grew a lot during those years.
Yeah, we became out of COVID. That's how our book club started. So that's definitely a time when everyone was looking for that connection, and love of books brought everyone together. That's
Yeah.
when I first found your group. So
Well, I'm
thank you
glad
for that.
because it is a
And a
great.
lot of our members are in your group. A lot of our members are excited for May 30th.
Awesome.
And one Anne says, I don't even read what Brenda's books are about because I just pre-order. I know I'll love it.
Oh, that's so sweet. Is that Ann Mathewson?
It is Anne Flacari.
Oh, so sweet. Thank you, Anne.
There's lots of love for you in the chat, and everyone's just so thankful that you took the time to
I'm
spend
great.
with us tonight.
Yeah, it's been fun getting a chance to talk books. And I appreciate everybody's support, everybody who has read the book and posted, and I appreciate you two reading it and discussing it with me.
It was
Oh, it
fabulous.
was a pleasure. I loved it. And we've done our own little reel of photos of our members with your book. So or pictures of the book itself. So we've got that on our book club page. So
Oh,
I'm
check that
sure
out.
some of our members will be entering your contest,
Oh,
especially with that wonderful prize. So that's
good.
kind
I've
of
been out of it
exciting.
for so long that I haven't seen that yet. I've been, I think I told you I went 3 weeks to Italy and I'm just getting back and had a truckload of mail but Alexa's married and we'll get through the reception this weekend.
Oh,
It's all getting wound up.
congratulations to Alex. That's awesome.
Yes, congratulations.
Yeah, I'm
We
excited.
didn't know it was such a busy time, but thank you so much for joining us. I can't believe our time is already up, but it's just flown by.
It
And we
has. It
just
really
so
has.
appreciate your joining us and our members tonight. It
Yeah.
just tourist season is an awesome pick, and we are really excited to have read it.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Appreciate your
I'm going to
support.
go down a Brenda Novak rabbit hole now and just start binging a bunch of your books.
Well, good. Well, when you get to 50, let me know. Turn in your list because you get a fun 50 plus pin. It's a Swarovski crystal lapel pin. It's really pretty.
Oh, I
Very cool.
love it.
Yeah.
That's
What a
awesome.
cool idea.
Love
Yeah,
awards.
there's so many great things. And like one of our members said, that you do so much to make your readers feel so loved. And there's just so many personal touches that you take that go above and beyond the normal author reader
Very
relationship.
happy.
So people are just so thankful for that. It means so much to all of us.
Well, they treat
Um,
me very good and I'm grateful.
I have to ask this before we let you go, because our members will some of our members will know, but they like to get autographed copies. So we know they can order them from your website, but are there any indie bookstores outside of that, or is
Yes.
there
Oh,
anywhere
yes.
else
As a
people
matter of
can
fact,
get
there's a
signed
list on my
copies?
website of indie bookstores
Okay.
that have signed books. And
Cool.
when you buy it from that store, that's a participating store, you also get a cute Mariners keychain, which we don't have any more of at all. So they're out there with the indie stores. We love indies and we try and support them by providing this free gift with purchase. So you get it for free, and the list is on my website where you can. I've been posting about
Perfect.
that too. So yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
Oh,
And you
great. They will
Yay.
enjoy that. Well, Brenda, again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been just fantastic talking about tourist season, and I can't wait to hopefully meet you out on tour sometime this fall or spring.
I'm coming down that
And
way.
if you haven't got it,
Yes.
gotten it.
Thank you, ladies. I appreciate it.
Have a
Thank
wonderful
you so much.
evening.
Right, you too.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Night. What a fun night.
I know. There was so much going on in that book, let me tell you.
It had everything: romance, mystery, thriller,
Oh yeah, and I think you were telling me about liking the spice.
and a little spice. Yeah, it was great. I loved it. Um, Now we are officially in the after show. So, um, we have our upcoming book club discussions that we can talk about. I can go ahead and share those dates. Um, so coming up in June, let me make sure I have the right date. I don't want to tell you guys the wrong date. In June, we are having the fabulous Mary Kay Andrews on June 17th. We will be discussing Summers at the Saint. And it's at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So make sure you join us for our June pick. And then in July, we're going to be discussing the rom-comers with Catherine Center on July 15th. And that is also at 7 p.m. Eastern. And coming up in August, we have another Friends in Fiction superstar. We're going to discuss A Happier Life by Christy Woodson Harvey. And that's on August 19th, 7 p.m. Eastern. And then on August 22nd, a few days later, we will have a happy hour with Ron Block, and that will be at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. And then starting off September with a bang, on September 16th, we will be discussing What You Leave Behind by the fabulous Wanda Morris. And we are super excited about that. So that
Yes,
is our
absolutely.
upcoming schedule. And we are excited. Tell us what you guys are excited about in the chat. Oh, hi, everyone that's still with us. Brenda Novak was awesome, you guys. I'm telling you, I was so I knew what a superstar she was, but I was blown away by that book. So if you haven't read it, do it
Oh, I
now and then
was
come
too.
back and watch this. So I think that does it for us, guys. Happy Monday.
Okay, well, I think then we are at our close.
Yep.
So with that, I guess I'll just say thanks for joining us live on Facebook for this discussion of this fabulous book. You can find our episodes on YouTube and on Facebook, and you can follow us on Instagram at Friends in Fiction Book Club, at Lisa Gets Lit, and at Brenda by the Book.
Yep.
Thanks for joining us this evening, and happy reading.
Yep. Happy reading. PB&J
And what?
out. EB&J out.
Bye-bye.
Good night.